Assalamu alaikum. Bao has often talked about the beauty and the wisdom of his children. When one need only talk with the younger children to realize the beauty of that connection that they feel between themselves and God. Sitting here with me is
Asia.
and
Kabira.
Kabira. How old are you, Kabira?
8 3/4.
8 3/4. And how old are you, Asia?
9.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you some questions, and then I just want you to tell me, use your wisdom. Let your wisdom come up, and answer those questions. Okay? When you think about God, sometimes when we think about God, we put our hand over our heart. Does God live within our hearts?
Yeah.
How do you know that? Have you had an experience like that?
Well, God is in everyone's heart. He's always watching over everyone.
God's everywhere. I mean, if God wasn't if God didn't exist, we wouldn't exist. Nothing would exist. So, like, he's in our hearts and he's everywhere.
Okay. We talk a lot about wisdom. What exactly is wisdom? And how do you know if you have wisdom, and how do you know if you don't have wisdom?
Well, wisdom is like good qualities and like mostly wiseness. And we could ask like our friends or people if we have wisdom, and they might like tell us if we're nice to them, what we need to practice on, like if we need to practice on being patient with them. That's how you can find out if we have wisdom.
How about you, Kabir? What's wisdom mean to you, and how can you tell if you or someone else has wisdom?
Well, wisdom pretty much means to me that you're being good, you have good qualities, and you're doing like the right thing. And usually I can tell if I have wisdom or another person have wisdom is if, like, in my conscience I'm doing the right thing, or they're doing the right thing, or in their conscience they're doing the right thing, or I'm doing the right thing.
Well, that's an interesting thought that you brought up about conscience. What is your conscience?
Sort of like if you're doing something bad, then there's a little voice in you, and it's telling you like you shouldn't do that or you should do that. And it's not really like there's someone going, don't do that, but you just feel inside that you're not supposed to do that, or you are supposed to do that.
Do you always listen to your conscience?
No.
How about you?
No.
How come?
Well, sometimes the dog of desire or the monkey of the mind just pulls you away and they want you to do the wrong thing, and the conscience wants you to do the right. Sometimes the wrong seems much better than the right. Like if your mom told you not to get all that much candy, and you spend a lot of money worth of candy, you get a lot of candy, then that's not using your conscience.
That was listening to the dog of desire.
Yeah. The dog of desire pulled you away.
What do you think is the most important wealth or treasure that a person can have?
Well, to have all good qualities, and they should like try to be nice to people, and they shouldn't kill people, or else then you definitely will not go to heaven, because God created you and God created them. So, and then you should try to do prayers, like Kabira said. Try to listen to your parents.
Okay. Now we know that God exists, and we know that you exist. What's the connection between you and God? How do you know that there's a connection there?
I know it because I've just heard stories from Bala, from my parents, and from other people, and I just built this thing up in my mind. God exists, and He created me, so there has to be a connection that He's me.
What do you think God does all day?
Well, God, God gives us every breath that we have during the day, and God protects us. And God helps us through the day if we have a test or something. He'll help us with that. If you pray for him, they'll help you with that. And he'll just help you if you ask help, and he's just always with you during the day. He's with everyone.
We're sitting here and we're going to talk with a little girl whose name is
Amy.
And what's your last name, Amy?
Fetterman.
And how old are you?
4.
Amy, I'm going to ask you a question, okay? Can you tell me where God lives?
In my heart.
What's your name?
Svua.
What's your last name?
Puzna.
And how old are you?
6. Suhaiva Neil and I'm 9.
And when we ground up, then I'm 8 3/4.
Okay, guys, I'm going to ask you some questions and just let your wisdom talk, okay? First question I want to ask you is, where does God live?
In our heart. Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Okay. Now, we know that God exists, and we know that you exist. Now, what's the connection between you and God? How do you know that there's a connection?
Because if we didn't have God, we wouldn't be alive.
Qualities.
Our connection to God is our qualities. In other words, if we have God's qualities, then we're connected to God.
Yeah.
What are some of those qualities that make you feel connected to God?
I think love, kindness, patience.
Okay, so when you have those qualities, you feel connected to God. How can you tell if you're doing something right or if you're doing something wrong?
Because if I be mean to someone, I'm just doing something wrong. And if I'm kind to them, then I'm doing something right.
Okay, how about you, Suhaiba? How can you tell when you're doing something right or you're doing something wrong?
Well, your conscience tells you if you're doing something wrong not to do it.
Okay, and what exactly is your conscience?
It's like a little voice inside you that tells you what's right and wrong.
What's your favorite thing about Bawa?
When it talks, when you go to get up and sit in his room and stuff while he's talking.
When he tells you a story.
We're sitting here with some of the older children. I'm going to ask you your names and how old you are, okay?
Jennifer, 14.
What's your last name, Jennifer?
Foreman.
Jeremy, 11.
What's your give me your last name, too.
Posner.
Hassan Cushing, 14.
Where does God live? Jeremy?
I guess somewhere above us so he could look over us.
Okay. Hassan?
He lives inside of us, and he lives everywhere.
Okay, so where if inside of us, where inside of us does God live?
In our heart.
And okay, how about you, Jennifer?
That's what I was going to say, everywhere and in your heart.
What does wisdom mean to you? And how can you draw upon your wisdom and use it in your everyday life?
Wisdom, it's like having knowledge of God and of having all the qualities of God and trying to have all the qualities of God. And I try to go to prayers to get wisdom and listen to Bible's talks.
Okay, now when you go to school and there's a lot of other children at school, can you tell which of the children are acting the correct way and which of the children aren't? And do all the children at school use their wisdom?
No. And you can tell which ones act bad and which ones don't.
How about you, Jeremy? What's your experience been like?
Well, in school, not a lot of the people use their wisdom, but some people do. Like, they're being nice, kind to others, have a heart, they respect other people, and they don't. Well, that's what I think.
Okay, how about you, Jennifer? When you go to school and you want to use your wisdom at school and there are other children who aren't conducting themselves in a wise way, what do you do?
I just try to make everybody else see the wisdom in the situation or something.
Yeah, what if they don't want to see the wisdom? What if they're intent on doing the wrong thing? Then what do you do?
Then I don't go along with them.
Okay, well that's good. I think that's what Bawa would tell us to do. What's your favorite thing about Bawa?
He's very loving and very sweet. And he tells us a lot of things that we should do, which are true.
And what's your favorite thing about the fellowship?
Coming to see Val and seeing my friends.
Okay, how about you, Jeremy? What's your favorite thing about Bawa?
That he can teach us good things that we could later use in the world that will help us get to heaven.
Okay, and how about Hassan?
Well, I think Bawa, he's a good friend, and he can really teach us a lot to get along in the world and in the heavens.
Okay, and Hassan, what's your favorite thing about the fellowship?
Being all together and going to the mosque
Okay, well,
and the food.
okay. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, we're talking with, and give me your name and how old you are.
Siti Rahman Bibi Jones. I'm
Okay.
12 years old.
Okay, Siti. I'll call you Rahman, right? Okay. How long have you been riding a bike like this?
About 5 months.
Now, when you first sat on a bike like this, could you start riding right away, or did it take some time to learn how to do this?
Took me 3 weeks.
Only 3 weeks?
Yeah, but not to get as good now, just to ride it.
Okay. What did you learn when you were trying to learn how to ride a bike like this? Did you learn anything in terms of God's qualities?
Patience. More patience. Love, I guess. And I got rid of a lot of anger, and frustration. Because when you ride a unicycle, you have to have a lot of patience because it takes a while to get started.
But that was good. Now, so you learned a lot. You learned something that you could really use in your own life when you learned to ride the unicycle.
Right. Hopefully I'll do more tricks and everything, but it still takes more patience and more wisdom. And I think if I don't have patience, I won't be able to ride this because I'll just get frustrated and put it away, and it wouldn't be good for something like this.
Has the lessons that you've learned from riding the unicycle helped you in other areas of your life?
Yes. Say if I was learning something like math, or that's what you have to learn, I'd probably have more patience, less anger, and less frustration.
Okay, very good. You know, that's it's interesting to see, and I think that a lot of people can. It's important to be able to take a lesson that you learn in doing something like riding a unicycle or just learning to ride a bike or whatever we do, and be able to apply that in all different areas of our life. Let me ask you some other questions that I've been asking some of the other children. Where does God live?
God everywhere, all over the place, but one God.
Okay. Now, we know that God exists, and we know that you exist. What's the connection between you and God?
I don't know. It's hard to say, but I try to have better qualities every day, and qualities is what makes like connection with God.
So when you feel as if you're being patient, or when you have God's qualities, do you feel closer to God?
Yeah, I do.
How can we tell the difference between good and bad? What is it in us that tells the difference between those two?
What's in us? Our conscience tells, like there's a little voice inside of you that tells you if you're doing something good or bad. But if I do something bad, the conscience will like bother you and say you did something wrong. But if I did something good, they'll be happy.
Okay. And your heart will feel lighter.
Right.
Is it easy to listen to your conscience?
I don't think it's that easy for a lot of people, because there's so much things that we want to do. Like say if there was this delicious piece of cake or something, and your mom tells you you can't have a piece until after dinner. Lots of kids would want that delicious piece of cake, and they might just sneak a little inch. Or sometimes, if you're good, you might have it after dinner if you can wait.
Okay, so it's our conscience tells us the difference between right and wrong, and we just have to learn how to listen to our conscience and do the good things and not to do the naughty things. Tell me, Rahman, what's your favorite thing about the fellowship?
Bawa teaching us the difference between right and wrong.
Okay, and what's your favorite thing about Bawa?
His qualities, I guess.
We've brought our equipment and our cameras and our microphones deep into the jungles here in Philadelphia to talk to three wise boys. Why don't you tell me your names and how old you are?
My name is Imran, and I'm 8 years old.
Ismail, and I'm 9.
Jacob, and I'm 7.
I think the first question I want to ask you is, where does God live?
In heaven.
Everywhere.
Well, there's no question about it. Just like he lives in a land that I don't know of.
Okay.
No, he lives in the heart.
He lives in your heart. Okay. How do you know that God lives in your heart?
Well, 'cause like he kind of when we're doing something right and wrong, he like kind of tells us you don't hear him say like don't do it, but he just kind of hear it. You shouldn't do that. Your conscience.
You get a feeling that that God's in your heart. How do you make sure, or how can you make sure that you do only the good things and that you don't do the naughty things?
Well, I don't know, because sometimes the naughty things appear in your heart, sometimes the good things appear in your heart.
I think, like, if you want to be good all your life, then you have to listen to your conscience.
Okay. And when you guys go to school, and there are other children that are acting without wisdom, what do you do then?
I just don't listen to them. I mean,
Okay, right. And if they're doing something that's not correct, you don't listen to them. What do you do instead?
I just do my work and don't pay any attention to them.
How about you, Jacob? What do you do?
Well, they have their own ways, so I just leave myself alone and worry about my things and my conscience and what I do.
Okay, very good. How do you feel connected between yourself and God?
Well, I only feel connected when I'm good, because God's good, so, you know.
What's your favorite thing about the fellowship?
The bookstore
Bawa and the food.
Okay, how about Jacob? What are your favorite things about the fellowship?
The bookstore, Bawa, and the food.
One last question. What's your favorite thing about Bawa?
His wisdom. When he talks.
Tell me your name and tell me how old you are.
Joseph. 5.
Joseph, and you're 5 years old. And how old are you, and what's your name?
David, and I'm 7 years old.
Okay. You know, you two look a lot like brothers. Are you related to each other?
I am, and he is.
Okay. Now tell me, what does God do all day?
I don't know. I guess he just works, I guess.
What kind of work do you think he does?
I don't know what kind of work he does.
How about you? What do you think God does all day?
Protects
Who does he protect?
people, animals, and bugs too. And bugs too, and all sorts of things.
Where does God live?
He lives all over. He doesn't have to live anywhere. Because he can live anywhere.
How about you? Where do you think, Joseph, where do you think God lives?
Everywhere.
Okay, does he live inside of your heart?
Yes. I think so too. I think so too.
Okay. What does wisdom mean to you? What is wisdom? Everyone talks about wisdom. But what is that?
Well, it's something good. And it's not bad like alcohol and all that stuff.
Okay, how about you? What's wisdom?
Goodness,
What else?
having good qualities.
Okay. Do you have wisdom?
Yes.
How could I tell?
Well, the valve's gonna crack out, Joseph.
Here, come on, hold his hand and we'll pull him up. Come on.
You have to be careful.
Do you think is being careful something that a wise person would do?
I think so.
Okay. What is your that was good. What's your favorite thing about Bawa?
Goodness. My favorite thing about him is that he's good and he teaches us good things.
What's your favorite thing about the fellowship?
I don't know. I like all those decorations over there at the mosque.
Ishmael, tell me, what does Assalamu alaikum mean, and why do we give salams when we greet each other?
It means, may the peace of God be always with you. And way that I think that we give salams to people is, it's a nicer way to give greetings instead of just saying hello, because you're saying, may God be with you at all times.
Sometimes when we play with our friends, we sometimes we get angry with them or upset with them. But then when we see them the next time, we still have to give salams. Why is it good to give salams then?
Well, it's good to give salams then to clear the air and to be friendly at all times. You shouldn't get angry at another person, especially if it's a friend. And it's a nice way to start over.
Good. Ishmael, tell me, what's your favorite thing about Bawa?
His face and the way he makes you feel good when you're around him.
How about the fellowship? What's your favorite thing about the fellowship?
Being able to see Bala and my friends and stuff.
What's the most important wealth that a man needs in his life?
I'd say wisdom and knowledge of God. Learning about the Quran and stuff.
How can we tell whether something is good or something is bad, whether we've done a good action or whether we've done a bad action?
Well, for me, sometimes when I do a bad action, I feel funny. And if I do something good, people say that my face looks bright. And when I do something bad, it looks like I have a cloud around me. So, let's say bad as though it says, it makes you feel bad, and good makes you feel happy.
What is it in your heart that lets you that tells you that you've done something good or something bad?
Well, for me, it makes my heart feel light. So, I guess for other people it'd be different.
Can man have peace without God?
He can have false peace, but not true peace without God.
Tell me, now, we know that God exists, and we know that we exist. What is the connection between ourselves and God?
God created us, and He's around us at all times. And we should try to be around God as much as He is around us.
How do we do that?
Going to prayers and always doing good actions and not things that would make Him displeased with us in any way.
When we go to prayers, what is it that we should pray for?
We should pray for the wisdom that we need, and after we pray for our wisdom, we pray for other people's health, such as Bao's, since he's not feeling well right now, and to go to heaven when we die instead of hell.
Well, thank you for coming. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
What's your name?
Oh, well, Grace.
And what's the name that Bao gave you?
Oh, Siti Rahmat.
Siti Rahmat. Okay, Siti Rahmat. I have a question for you. Where is God and where does God live?
In your heart.
Does He live in everybody's heart?
Yeah, He's everywhere.
What do you think that God does all day?
Helps people.
What's your favorite thing about Bawa?
Oh, He just helps people.
He helps people?
Yeah.
What does He do when He helps people?
He say things to people, what they can do so they can be safe if they were not safe.
Tell me, Rahmat, what's your favorite thing about coming to the fellowship?
Oh, well, I could see Bawa by going up to his room if it was open, and also I could eat there.
Bashir Allow, I'm 8 years old.
Christine Whitty and I'm 7.
Okay, tell me this. Where does God live? Where is God and where does God live? Christine?
In heaven.
Bajira?
God is in our hearts and He lives in heaven.
Can you tell me what wisdom is and what is the lack of wisdom?
Wisdom is having a good brain, like knowing what to do, what is right and what is wrong.
And how can you tell what is right and what is wrong? What is it that tells you what's right and what's wrong?
God, like you have a little voice in you, and you have to also use your brain We have to think, well, is this right or is this wrong?
And how do you make sure that you always do the right thing and never do the wrong thing?
You say the Bisman.
What's the most important treasure that we can get in our life?
Allah.
Allah. How do we get that treasure?
By having good qualities.
Okay. What else can we do to get Allah?
Help others.
Okay.
Help them up if they get hurt.
Okay. And by doing all those things, then we'll get that treasure, which is Allah.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Bajira? What's the most important treasure that you think that we could get in our life?
Having good qualities.
And what will that do for us?
Well, when we die, we'll go to one of the heavens.
Okay. What do you think God does all day?
He helps everybody.
How does he do that?
He gives food to the poor. He helps you.
Does he only give food to the poor? How about the
No.
rich people? Do they get to eat?
Well, the rich people, yeah, they get to eat, and he might, like, if your TV or something is broken, he might, like, help somebody come and fix it.
Does God help everyone, or does he only help some people?
He helps everyone.
So, okay. What else do you think God does all day?
He, like if you're like thinking, well, should I do, is this like right or wrong? He'll come to you and tell you if it's right or wrong, and you have to listen to him.
How does he come to you? Do you hear a voice inside your heart that says, Bajira, this is not a good thing to do?
Yes.
Tell me, what's your favorite thing about Bawa?
When he talks.
Okay. What are some of the things that he said that you particularly like?
I don't know.
Think about that. I'll come back and ask you that, okay? How about, what's your favorite thing about the fellowship?
Playing outside.
Okay. And how old did you say you were?
7.
7. When did you first meet Bala? Do you remember?
No.
Were you a little baby?
Yeah.
So you've known Bala your whole life?
Have?
Yeah. That's pretty special. I didn't meet Bala till I was much older. We know that God exists.
Yeah.
And we know that we exist.
Yeah.
What's the connection between God and ourselves?
Well, he's always in our hearts. So it's like he's in our hearts and we're here.
Okay.
So he's sort of inside of us.
So if he's inside of us, then he's connected to us.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Bajira, what's your favorite thing about Bala?
I like when he talks.
And what are some of the things he said that you particularly like?
Well, today the story about Satan.
Oh yeah, that's what I like.
You like that story about
Yeah.
the billboards?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about that story Bala told today.
Well, Satan dressed up as God, or a wise person. He went to this wise man, and he said, would you like to go to heaven? The wise man said yes. And Satan went back and all these other Satans came out, and he said, which one of you would like to be a donkey? And one of them volunteered. He was a donkey. And then the next day, Satan said to the wise man, get on this donkey because it's a long trip to heaven. So what they did was, along the trip, Satan said, would you like to see hell? Because then you'll see why heaven is more nice. So the wise man said yes. And then Satan put a blindfold over him. And they went to hell. And he told all the other Satans to, like, put diamonds and rubies all over. So that's what they did. And then Satan he took the blindfold off the wise man. And the wise man said, well, this looks like heaven to me. See, right there, right there. It was so beautiful. And there was all these ladies dancing, and there was beautiful food. And then the wise man tasted it. He said, this is good. And all these nice things happened that he thought it was heaven. He said, this seems like heaven to me. It doesn't seem like hell. And then all at once, the lights went out and darkness came, and there was all these worms and skulls. It turned, before that, he signed this paper, and he said, I would like to stay here for a couple days. And then it got dark, and all these worms and skulls came out, and it turned into hell. And Satan says, this is hell, and you sign that paper, and you're going to stay here forever.
And what did you learn from that story?
Well, I mean, like, you can't just trust what it looks like. You can't just, like, trust, like, what it looks like. You can't, like, say, oh, well, this is a really beautiful place. You have to, like, figure out the trick. Like, there's a saying that you can't trust a book by a cover.
That's right. So you have to use your wisdom and look closely at it and see what's really good and what's really bad, and not let yourself be tricked. Okay, what's your favorite thing about the fellowship?
I like having all of us together, like at meetings and things, like being all one family.
Being in unity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do we give salams to each other? What does it mean when we say assalamu alaikum?
May God be with you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And why is it that we give salams?
I don't know.
Maybe Bajira knows. Why is it?
Give salams because, like, so we can have God always in us. It means may peace be upon you. And then when you say it like Islam, it means peace be upon you too. It means like so you have God's qualities in you and God in you all day long.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Name's Kabira and I'm 6.5.
Kabira. And your name?
Muhammad Ismail. I'm 5.
What's your last name?
Woody.
Witty. What was your last name?
McCorkle.
Okay. Where do you think God lives?
Everywhere.
All over the world? How about you, Kabir? Where do you think God lives?
Everywhere. Because God makes everything happen, so he's probably everywhere.
That's right. Okay. What about, now God lives everywhere. How about within our own body? Where does God live?
Heart. In our heart.
How do you know that?
I don't know.
You just have a feeling that God lives there? When your mom or dad says, use your wisdom, what are they telling you to do? Are they telling you to go and do something naughty? What are they telling you to do?
Do something good.
Okay. So wisdom tells you to do good things. Who tells you to do the bad things?
Satan.
Who are we supposed to listen to?
God.
How about you, Kabir? How do we know the difference between the two?
If you say the Bismillah before you do anything,
What'll happen after that?
it will probably come out all right.
So it's important to say the Bismillah. What does the Bismillah mean?
I don't
In the name of God,
Most merciful and compassionate.
most merciful and most compassionate. A treasure is something that really is worth a lot, that means a lot to us. So what is it in your life that means the most to you?
God.
So God is your treasure. And where do you keep that treasure?
My heart.
In your heart. How about you, Kabir? What do you think is the most important treasure that we can get in our life?
God.
And how do we do that? How do we get that treasure?
By being good and having good qualities.
Tell me, Kabir, what does God do all day?
He makes everything happen.
He makes everything happen. Okay, like what?
He controls everything.
Could we do anything if God didn't exist?
No. Because God's the one that made us.
God's the one that made us. What's your favorite thing about Bawa?
I like when he talks because then I can know what's good and bad. He explains things.
You know, a lot of people like when he gives out candy because the candy tastes sweet. When Bawa talks, do those words taste sweet to your heart?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah? Okay. What about the fellowship? What's your favorite thing about the fellowship?
The meeting.
The meetings? And what about the meetings do you like the best?
When they read children's stories in the children's meeting.
You like that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm Umi, and I'm 4 3/4.
4 3. What's your last name, Umi?
Micah.
And what's your name?
Asia.
What's your last name?
Mariam Schiffer.
And how old are you?
5.
Where does God live?
In the sky.
How do you know that?
Because
Because what?
Because you told me one time.
Oh, okay. How about in your heart? Does God live in your heart? Did I
Yes.
ever tell you that?
Yes.
Oh. So he lives, maybe God lives everywhere.
He does live everywhere.
Oh. Is that true? You agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And he lives everywhere and he lives within our heart. Tell me, Umi, a lot of times you hear your mom and dad say, Umi, use your wisdom. What is wisdom?
It's a prayer.
Wisdom is a prayer. What kind of prayer is that?
It's a nice one.
A nice prayer. What is wisdom?
Being good
Being good?
and being nice.
Yeah. And what else?
Being gentle.
Being gentle. Asi, tell me, what's the most important thing that we could have in our life?
Being good and using your qualities.
How do we use our qualities?
We help others and we do what we're supposed to do.
And what are some of the things that we're supposed to do?
Listen to our mommies and daddies.
And who else?
When you go out to someone's house and their mommy and daddy there, you have to listen to them like your mommy and daddy.
How can we tell the difference between something that's good and something that's bad?
If you make a face if you stick your lip out or go like this, then it means you're mad.
Right. Okay, and how about when we're good? How can we tell when we're being good?
We smile.
What does God do all day?
He helps everyone to get good qualities.
What's your favorite thing about Bawa?
That he gives the children candy.
And what else? What else does Bawa give us?
Love and qualities.
Okay. And what about what's your favorite thing about the fellowship and coming to the fellowship?
That I can say Psalms to Baba and he gives us candy and we can go eat it with our friends.
How about you, Umi? What's your favorite thing about the fellowship?
That
You live at the fellowship.
when I go over and I want some orange or apple, then that's my favorite.
When we give salams to people, why do we give salams?
Because we love them.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.